Ladies, tell me if this sounds familiar. You gave him your heart. You gave him your time. You stood by him when no one else did. And then one day, without warning, he left. You tried to understand, you tried to hold on, but he was gone. And just when you finally started to breathe again, here he is, standing in front of you, saying, "I've been thinking. I want to come back." What do? Do you open your arms? Do you close the door? Or do you pause just long enough to remember that this time the choice isn't his, it's yours? Life has a strange way of teaching us about love. Sometimes the men you love will walk away. They'll leave without giving you the closure you thought you needed, and you'll wonder if something's wrong with you. And then, one day, they show up again smiling, talking as if nothing happened. When that happens, here's what I want you to remember. First, accept that people leave and come back for reasons you may never fully understand. This is not always a reflection of your worth. Sometimes it's their own journey, their own confusion, their own search for meaning. Second, keep your dignity. Don't chase them into the storm. Give them space to figure themselves out, and give yourself space to breathe. The love worth having never needs to be begged for. While they're gone, keep living. Chase your dreams, deepen your friendships, learn a new skill. Remember that your life has meaning beyond anyone's presence or absence. Don't waste your nights asking why. Over and over, you may never get a satisfying answer. Instead, use that energy to become the kind of person who feels whole, with or without someone else's hand to hold. And when they return, because often they do listen, but don't kneel. Look into their eyes and ask yourself, are they here because they love you or because they don't want to be alone? Communicate clearly, be honest about your needs, and above all, decide from strength. If you choose to welcome them back, let it be because it adds joy to your life, not because you fear the silence of your own company. Remember this, love is a gift, not a guarantee. People can come and go, but your peace, your dignity, and your self-respect, those must remain. Because no matter who stays or who leaves, you will still be enough. When someone you love walks away, your first instinct might be to see it as a failure, to think you weren't enough, that something about you pushed them out the door. But the truth is, people leave for many reasons that often have nothing to do with us. Sometimes they are chasing a dream, sometimes they are running from their own fears, and sometimes they simply don't know what they want yet. It's important to understand that leaving and returning is a cycle as old as love itself. People get overwhelmed, confused, tempted by other paths, or they believe they'll find happiness elsewhere. They go to explore the world beyond you, and sometimes they come back because they realize that what they were searching for was with you all along. When you accept this cycle, you stop taking their departure as an insult to your worth. You start to see it as part of their personal journey. It doesn't mean you approve of the leaving, and it doesn't mean you have to welcome them back without question. But it does mean you can stop torturing yourself with endless "what's wrong with me?" question. Acceptance doesn't mean you're okay with everything that happened. It means you choose to see the bigger picture. It's the recognition that love is rarely a straight line. It's a series of arrivals and departures, highs and lows, moments of closeness and moments of distance. And when you understand this, you can face their leaving without losing yourself in the process. When someone you deeply care about decides to leave, it often feels like the ground beneath you shift. You replay conversations, search for hidden meanings, and pick apart moments in the past, wondering which one was the turning point. It's human nature to take their departure personally, to think, if I had done something differently, they would still be here. But here's the reality. People leave for reasons that often have nothing to do with you. Sometimes they're in a season of confusion where they don't even know what they want from themselves, let alone from a relationship. Other times, they're chasing excitement, opportunities, or closure to something unfinished in their own lives. And sometimes, they simply need to be alone to understand who they are without the weight of love's expectations. Understanding and accepting this doesn't mean you have to like it or pretend it doesn't hurt. It simply means you recognize that departures are part of the natural rhythm of relationships. Human bonds are rarely linear, they ebb and flow like the tide. There are seasons of closeness and warmth, and there are seasons of distance and silence. When you begin to see love in cycles rather than in absolutes, you release yourself from the heavy burden of self-blame. You stop thinking, "I wasn't enough," and start understanding they are on their own path right now. That shift changes everything. You stop treating their absence as a verdict on your worth and start seeing it as part of their personal journey, one that you cannot and should not control. Accepting the cycle allows you to remain steady in the storm. It gives you the emotional distance to observe the situation without letting it crush your spirit. And more importantly, it reminds you that even if they return or even if they don't, your value remains untouched. When someone you love leaves, the natural instinct is to reach for them, to send messages, to call, to try to explain, to remind them of the good times. You think, if I can just make them remember what we have, they won't walk away completely. But what often happens is the opposite. The more you pull, the more they resist. This is why giving them space is so important. Space isn't about pushing them away in anger. It's about stepping back enough for them to see things clearly without the constant noise of emotions and pressure. When a person is uncertain, when their heart feels restless, they need room to sort through those feelings. If you fill that space with pleas, arguments, or constant reminders, you take away their chance to miss you, to think for themselves, to choose you freely. It's not easy. Giving space feels like doing nothing when every fiber of your being wants to take action. But in reality, it's one of the most powerful actions you can take, because silence speaks, distance speaks. And sometimes what it says is louder than any words you could send. By giving them space, you're also showing them and yourself that love doesn't mean control, that you respect their right to step away without punishing them for it. And in that quiet, something important can happen. They can remember who you are without the cloud of conflict or desperation hanging over you both. Space also gives you a gift, the gift of perspective. Without constant contact, you have the chance to breathe, to think about what you truly want, to evaluate whether their absence is a wound that can heal or a sign that it's time to move forward on your own. It might feel counterintuitive, but sometimes the strongest way to hold onto something is to loosen your grip. The space you allow now can be the very thing that brings clarity later for them and for you. When the person you love walks away, your emotions can feel like a storm you can't control. Fear, anger, sadness, and confusion all crash into each other. And in those moments, it's tempting to let your pain spill out in ways you might later regret, sending emotional messages, confronting them in public, or saying things driven more by hurt than by truth. But staying composed is not just about saving face in front of others, it's about preserving your own dignity and self-respect when everything inside you feels like it's falling apart. Composure is your anchor in emotional chaos. It tells the world, and more importantly yourself, I may be hurting, but I am not broken beyond repair. It doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or pretend you don't care. It means you choose when, where, and how you express them. You allow yourself to cry in private, to vent to a trusted friend, to write your feelings down, but you resist the urge to explode in ways that could leave scars on the relationship or on your own reputation. Staying composed also sends a subtle but powerful message. You are not defined by anyone's decision to stay or leave. You are capable of standing tall even when your heart feels fragile. And paradoxically, this calmness often draws more respect from the very person who left, because it shows strength where they might have expected collapse. Think of it this way: when someone steps away, they're observing you from a distance. If they see you unravel publicly, it can confirm their doubts or create a sense of pity rather than admiration. But if they see you carrying yourself with grace, it challenges their expectations and makes them view you through a different lens. Composure is not for their benefit alone, it is for yours. It's the quiet assurance that even in the moments you cannot control, you can still control how you show up in the world. When someone you love leaves, it's easy to let your entire world shrink down to the size of that absence. You wake up thinking about them, you go through your day with a hollow ache, and you fall asleep replaying memories like old films you can't stop watching. Your routines change, your energy drops. You start putting your own needs and dreams on hold, almost as if life itself has paused until they return. But here's the truth, your life is still happening. The clock hasn't stopped. Opportunities are still passing by. People still want to know you. Experiences are still waiting for you. And there are still moments of joy out there with your name on them, but you have to keep moving to find them. Focusing on your life during their absence is not about pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to let their choice to leave also take away your ability to live fully. It means continuing to show up for your work, nurturing your friendships, caring for your health, and keeping your passions alive. It means making plans that excite you, whether that's learning something new, traveling somewhere you've always wanted to go, or simply enjoying small daily rituals that bring you peace. When you keep your life in motion, you also protect yourself from emotional dependency. If your entire happiness revolves around one person, their absence feels like a complete collapse. But when you have other sources of fulfillment, your career, your hobbies, your personal growth, your family, you create stability that no one's leaving can fully shake. There's another benefit. People are often drawn back to those who are actively living, not waiting. When they see you thriving, not in a way that's meant to provoke them, but in a way that's genuinely focused on your own well-being, it reminds them of the person they fell for in the first place, the person with spark, purpose, and presence. Most importantly, focusing on your life is an act of self-respect. It says, yes, I care about you, but I also care about me. It's a quiet declaration that your existence is valuable with or without someone else standing beside you. When you love someone deeply, it's natural to share your happiness, your dreams, and even your sense of security with them. The danger comes when that sharing turns into relying on them as your only source of joy. When that happens, their absence doesn't just leave you missing them, it leaves you feeling empty, as if a part of your identity vanished the moment they walked away. Emotional independence is the antidote to that. It's not about becoming cold, detached, or unreachable. It's about building an inner foundation so strong that while their love adds to your life, it does not define it. It's about knowing that your heart beats for more than just one person's presence, approval, or attention. When you are emotionally independent, you love freely but not desperately. You can give affection without fear that it will drain you. You can stand on your own 2 feet even when the one you love is miles away. You can enjoy their company without becoming addicted to it. This balance doesn't just protect you, it actually makes your love healthier, because it comes from a place of choice, not need. It also changes the way others see you. A person who is emotionally independent radiates a quiet confidence. They are attractive not because they cling, but because they have a life, an identity, and a happiness that already exists. When you don't depend entirely on someone to feel whole, you give them the freedom to love you without the weight of being your sole source of happiness. Developing this independence takes conscious effort. It means nurturing your own passions, learning how to comfort yourself in moments of loneliness, and reminding yourself that you are capable of weathering emotional storms. It means replacing the thought, I can't live without them, with I choose to share my life with them. And the truth is, when someone knows you love them but don't need them to survive, the dynamic shifts. You become a partner, not a dependent, a choice, not an obligation. That's the kind of love that can breathe, grow, and last. When the person you love leaves, silence becomes its own kind of noise. You start replaying every conversation, every gesture, every moment, looking for clues you might have missed. You dissect their last words, wondering if there was a hidden message. You go over old pictures thinking this smile was real, wasn't it? Overthinking is the mind's way of trying to control what it cannot control. It feeds on uncertainty, creating scenarios that may have no basis in reality. One moment you're convincing yourself they'll come back any day now, and the next you're certain they're gone forever, all without a single new fact to confirm either belief. It's exhausting, and worse, it traps you in a cycle where your thoughts hurt you more than the actual situation. The problem with overthinking is that it doesn't lead to answers, only more questions. You start building entire stories in your head, complete with imaginary conversations and conclusions, and then you respond emotionally to those imagined situations as if they were real. The result, you relive pain that hasn't even happened, sometimes over and over. Avoiding overthinking doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means recognizing when your mind is turning against you and choosing to step away from that spiral. It means grounding yourself in what you actually know, not what you fear or assume. If you don't have the full truth, don't fill the gaps with the worst possible outcome, because your mind will believe it, and your heart will suffer as if it's fact. When you control overthinking, you take back your peace. You free yourself from the prison of what if and maybe. You stop giving your energy to scenarios you can't prove and instead focus on the present, the only place where you have any real power. And in that present, you find clarity. You realize that most of the torment didn't come from what they did or didn't say. It came from the stories you told yourself in the quiet. When someone you love leaves, your emotions can feel too big to contain. The hurt, the confusion, the betrayal, it can all boil over. And in the heat of that storm, it's tempting to let the world know exactly what happened. You might want to post something vague but sharp on social media, share private details with mutual friends, or make comments that are clearly aimed at them. It feels like a way to release the pain and reclaim some control. But here's the truth: public drama rarely gives you the relief you think it will. Instead, it often leaves you with more regret than satisfaction. Once your private struggles become a public spectacle, you can't control the way others interpret the story. People will form their own opinions, twist the narrative, and in some cases, even take pleasure in your misfortune. What was once your personal pain now belongs to the rumor mill. Keeping your situation private protects your dignity. It shows that you are capable of handling difficulty with grace, even when your heart is raw. It also spares you from having to explain or defend your choices later, should the relationship take a different turn. Remember, if they do come back, the same friends or followers who saw your public pain will also be watching your reconciliation, and not all of them will understand or support your decision. No public drama doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing carefully who you share your truth with. Confide in trusted friends, family members, or a counselor, people who can actually help you process, not people who will broadcast your emotions like a headline. There is also a deeper reason for this discretion. When you keep the details to yourself, you keep control of your own story. You aren't giving anyone the power to use your words against you, and you aren't locking yourself into a position you might later outgrow. In private, you can feel your emotions fully without the added pressure of performing them for an audience. Most importantly, avoiding public drama keeps the focus where it belongs, on healing, clarity, and forward movement, instead of on defending yourself against the noise of public opinion. When someone leaves, it's easy to get stuck in a loop of waiting for their call, their message, their return. Days can slip by with your energy focused entirely on what's missing, instead of on what's still in your hands. But the truth is, the time they're gone can be one of the most powerful seasons of your life if you choose to use it well. Working on yourself isn't about becoming better, so they'll come back. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that might have been overlooked, neglected, or put on hold while you were pouring so much into the relationship. Love can be beautiful, but it can also make us lose balance focusing so much on the other person's needs that we forget our own dreams, health, and growth. This is your chance to shift that focus back to you. It starts with honest self-reflection. Ask yourself, what do I want for my life independent of anyone else? What habits have I been meaning to change? What goals have I been too busy to pursue? Then take action. It could mean hitting the gym, improving your skills, starting a new project, traveling somewhere new, or finally tackling the personal goals you've been postponing. When you work on yourself, two important things happen. First, you begin to rebuild your self-confidence, because you're proving to yourself that you are capable of moving forward, creating and achieving, regardless of who stands beside you. Second, you shift the energy in your life from waiting to progressing, and that energy can change everything about the way you feel, think, and even the way others see you. There is also an emotional benefit. As you pour energy into your own growth, you begin to heal faster. You create new memories, new experiences, and new versions of yourself that aren't defined by the pain of their leaving. The more you grow, the less you cling to the idea that your happiness depends on someone else's return. And here's the unspoken truth. People often notice when you evolve. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because growth is magnetic. When you invest in yourself, you become a stronger, more confident, more grounded version of you, and that changes every interaction you have, including with the person who left. When someone you love leaves and then decides to return, it can be tempting to welcome them back without hesitation. To let relief overpower caution, after all, you miss them. You imagined this moment, maybe even prayed for it. But in that rush of emotion, there's a risk. Letting them step back into your life without any clear understanding of what is and isn't acceptable. Boundaries are the guardrails that protect your well-being, your self-respect, and your peace. Without them, love can become unbalanced, even unhealthy. Having boundaries doesn't mean building walls so high that no one can get close. It means defining the lines that must be respected for you to feel safe and valued in the relationship. When someone comes back, they need to understand that your time apart has taught you something, that you will no longer accept behaviors that leave you feeling small, insecure, or unheard. Boundaries might mean being clear about communication. No disappearing without explanation, no mixed signals, no silent punishments. They might mean protecting your personal time and space so you don't lose yourself in them again. They might even mean agreeing on how conflicts will be handled so that the same patterns don't repeat. Setting boundaries is also a way of testing sincerity. A person who truly values you will respect the lines you draw. They won't see them as obstacles, but as proof that you know your worth. On the other hand, someone who resents or ignores your boundaries is showing you that they're not ready to meet you in a healthy, respectful way. Boundaries protect not only your heart, but also the relationship itself. They create structure, clarity, and mutual respect, the very things that can turn a fragile reunion into a second chance worth keeping. And they send a powerful message. I am happy you're here, but I will not lose myself to keep you. When someone you love finally returns after leaving, emotions can hit you like a tidal wave relief. Excitement, fear, and even anger all at once. In that swirl of feelings, it's easy to lose control of the moment. You might feel the urge to plead with them, to make promises, to convince them to stay this time. But here's the thing, if you have to beg for love, it's not the kind of love that will truly last. Listening without begging is an act of self-respect. It means you give them space to speak, to explain why they left, why they came back, and what they want now without interrupting, without trying to sway them with emotional bargaining. You let them show you their intentions through their own words, not through a conversation you've tried to control. When you listen, you gather valuable information. You hear their reasons, their perspective, and their sincerity or lack of it. If they've come back because they genuinely want to rebuild, it will show in their actions and tone, not in how well you plead your case. If they've come back for comfort, convenience, or out of loneliness, that will also reveal itself if you give them the room to speak openly. Begging, on the other hand, shifts the balance of power. It places you in a position where you're asking for their approval, their affection, and their decision to stay instead of evaluating whether they deserve a place in your life again. Love should be a choice made freely by both people, not something one person has to be talked into keeping. Listening without begging also keeps your dignity intact. You show that you value yourself enough not to try to convince someone of your worth. Instead, you let them see your worth for themselves, and if they can't, then their return is not a gift, but a test you've already passed by not chasing. By choosing to listen instead of beg, you shift the focus from "please choose me" to "I'm here to understand your intentions before I decide anything." And that changes everything about the dynamic between you. When someone returns after leaving, it's tempting to focus only on the fact that they're back, to see their presence as proof that love wins, that the separation meant nothing, that you were always their choice. But coming back doesn't automatically mean they've changed, or that their reasons for leaving no longer exist. That's why evaluating their intentions is so important. You have to ask yourself, why are they here now? Did they return because they've done the work on themselves, realized what they had, and are ready to commit? Or are they here because they feel lonely, bored, or rejected elsewhere? Are they truly choosing you, or simply returning to what feels familiar? Evaluating intentions means looking beyond the words. Anyone can say, "I missed you," or "I made a mistake." But sincerity shows in actions, in consistency, in the way they treat you, not just during the reunion, but in the weeks and months that follow. Do they take responsibility for the hurt their leaving caused? Do they acknowledge the patterns that pushed you apart in the first place? Do they show effort in making things different this time? You also have to check how their return makes you feel. Does it bring you peace, or does it stir up more anxiety? Do you feel valued, or do you feel like a convenient option? Sometimes your own body and emotions will give you clues before your mind catches up. If their presence still leaves you feeling uncertain or unsafe, that's a sign worth paying attention to. Part of evaluating intentions is also being honest with yourself about your own readiness. Even if their reasons are genuine, are you in a place where you can open the door without resentment or mistrust poisoning what comes next? Their intentions matter, but so does your ability to receive them in a way that leads to something healthier than before. Remember, their return is not just a second chance for them, it's also a decision for you. And that decision should be made with clear eyes, not clouded by the excitement of seeing them again. Once you've heard them out and started to understand their intentions, the next step is to speak your truth, not the watered-down version, not the polite version that hides your hurt, and not the overly emotional version that turns into an attack. Honest communication is the bridge between what happened and what could happen next. Without it, any reunion will be built on shaky ground. Communicating honestly means expressing exactly what you felt during their absence, the confusion, the disappointment, the questions that still linger, but doing it in a way that invites dialogue rather than defensiveness. It's about sharing your reality without exaggeration or manipulation. You're not speaking to guilt them into staying, you're speaking so they understand who you are now and what you need moving forward. It also means being clear about your expectations. If you require consistency, say it. If trust was broken, acknowledge it and explain what it will take for you to rebuild it. If you feel that certain behaviors cannot repeat, set that boundary openly. Don't expect them to read your mind or just know what you need. People cannot meet standards they don't understand, and you can't hold them accountable for expectations you never voiced. Honesty works both ways. As much as you speak, you also have to be willing to hear truths that may be uncomfortable. They may reveal feelings you didn't expect or decisions you don't agree with. But hearing the full picture is part of knowing whether this second chance is worth taking. Another reason honesty is essential. When we hide parts of our truth out of fear they might leave again, we start building the relationship on pretense. That pretense can't hold the weight of time and reality. By being fully transparent now, you give the relationship the best possible chance to survive because both people know exactly where they stand. And if your truth causes them to walk away again, let it. The right person for you will not be scared off by your clarity. They will be drawn to it because they know it means the love they share with you will be rooted in reality, not in illusions. When someone you love returns after leaving, the decision of whether to let them back into your life is one of the most important choices you'll make, and it must be made from a place of strength, not from fear, loneliness, or desperation. If you decide while you're still emotionally fragile, you risk saying yes, simply because you're afraid of losing them again, rather than because having them back truly serves your life and your peace. Deciding from strength means pausing before you answer. It means taking time to reflect on everything you've learned since they left about yourself, about them, and about the relationship as a whole. It's looking honestly at the patterns, the problems, and the changes that have or have not been made. You're not rushing into this because your heart is hungry. You're weighing the choice with a clear mind and steady hands. When you make a decision from strength, you're not acting out of a need to prove your worth or keep them from choosing someone else. You're acting from the understanding that you are already enough, whether they are in your life or not. That mindset changes everything. Instead of thinking, what will happen to me if they go again? You're thinking, will my life be better, healthier, and more peaceful with them in it? Strength also allows you to see beyond the temporary comfort of their return. Sometimes, having them back feels good in the moment because it soothes the ache of missing them. But that feeling can fade quickly if the deeper issues remain unresolved. By deciding from strength, you ensure you're not just seeking relief from loneliness, but making a choice that aligns with your long-term well-being. This kind of decision-making also protects you from regret. When you choose from confidence rather than fear, even if things don't work out, you can look back knowing you acted with self-respect and clarity. You didn't let your emotions blind you. You chose what was right for you in that moment, based on your values and needs, not on the hope that love alone would fix everything. Ultimately, deciding from strength is about reclaiming your power. It's about remembering that you are not at the mercy of their return. You are in control of your own life, and you get to decide who earns a place in it. When someone you love comes back after leaving, it's natural to feel that your happiness hangs on their decision to stay. You might think, if they stay, I'll be fine. If they go again, I'll be destroyed. But the truth, the deep, unshakable truth, is that you will be okay no matter what happens. It might not feel that way in the moment, but your survival and your worth do not depend on the presence of one person. Knowing you'll be okay either way begins with remembering everything you've already been through. You've faced loss before. You've had moments when you thought you couldn't move forward, and yet here you are. Every challenge you've endured has proven that your heart is resilient. Your spirit is stronger than you realize, and your capacity to heal is greater than you give yourself credit for. This mindset frees you from the pressure of trying to control the outcome. When you know you'll be fine with or without them, you stop making choices from fear. You stop clinging to their presence as if it's the only thing keeping you standing. Instead, you start viewing their return as something that could add to your life, not something you need in order to function. It also gives you emotional freedom in the relationship itself. When you're secure in the knowledge that you can survive without them, you love differently, more openly, more authentically, without the desperate edge that comes from fearing abandonment. You're not walking on eggshells trying to keep them happy at all costs, because your happiness doesn't rest solely in their hands. And if they do leave again, you'll be able to grieve the loss without losing yourself. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, there will be hard days, but knowing you'll be okay either way means you understand that pain is temporary, growth is inevitable, and your story does not end just because one chapter closes. When you carry this belief, it changes not only how you handle their return, but how you handle every relationship in your life. You move from a place of dependence to a place of choice, and that is where your true power lies. When someone you love comes back after leaving, it's natural to feel that your happiness hangs on their decision to stay. You might think, if they stay, I'll be fine. If they go again, I'll be destroyed. But the truth, the deep, unshakable truth, is that you will be okay no matter what happens. It might not feel that way in the moment, but your survival and your worth do not depend on the presence of one person. Knowing you'll be okay either way begins with remembering everything you've already been through. You've faced loss before. You've had moments when you thought you couldn't move forward, and yet here you are. Every challenge you've endured has proven that your heart is resilient. Your spirit is stronger than you realize, and your capacity to heal is greater than you give yourself credit for. This mindset frees you from the pressure of trying to control the outcome. When you know you'll be fine with or without them, you stop making choices from fear. You stop clinging to their presence as if it's the only thing keeping you standing. Instead, you start viewing their return as something that could add to your life, not something you need in order to function. It also gives you emotional freedom in the relationship itself. When you're secure in the knowledge that you can survive without them, you love differently, more openly, more authentically, without the desperate edge that comes from fearing abandonment. You're not walking on eggshells trying to keep them happy at all costs, because your happiness doesn't rest solely in their hands. And if they do leave again, you'll be able to grieve the loss without losing yourself. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, there will be hard days. But knowing you'll be okay either way means you understand that pain is temporary, growth is inevitable, and your story does not end just because one chapter closes. When you carry this belief, it changes not only how you handle their return, but how you handle every relationship in your life. You move from a place of dependence to a place of choice. And that is where your true power lies. So if the man you love leaves and later comes back, remember this. You are not the same person who stood there watching him walk away. You are wiser now, stronger now, more in tune with who you are and what you deserve. Whether he stays or goes again, you will still stand tall. Because love is not just about who chooses you, it's also about how fiercely you choose yourself. And that choice, once made, will carry you through anything.